Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to the Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I'm here this morning with David.
Hello.
And we are excited to share with you this week's insights and cosmic prescriptions around how to let go of your addictions to people and things. We call this show Take Your Power Back. But what that really means is that this week is going to highlight all the areas where you are letting someone or something else control you. And I think in modern language, we call that addiction. But in Kabbalistic terms, it's called worshiping other idols. And when you use, addiction, you think everybody has an addiction to something, even if it's Netflix, right? But when you think about it as worshiping idols, it tends to have a connotation that makes you want to stop.
That's right.
So we're going to look at different ways that those subtle influences control us and how we can shift into being the cause, being the creator, and not allowing those things or those situations create our reality. And we do that every week. Every Monday we're here. Whether you're watching now on Facebook Live or IGTV, we're also on YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, CastBox, and Stitcher. This show is designed to give you a 7-day spiritual weather forecast so that you can not only make the most of these coming 7 days, but you'll have wisdom and insight for the entire year.
Yeah, Kabbalah, it's important to emphasize that Kabbalah is a study of energy. And we don't like to deal with the symptoms. A lot of times people come to us and already are sharing with us the symptoms of certain relationships souring or a certain type of chaos happening in their business or in their lives. That's already the symptom. And that means that somewhere down the line, we didn't interact with energy appropriately. And as a result, we caused a short circuit on the soul level. And then as a result of that, then it manifests somewhere in the physical world. So one of the reasons why people are addicted to other people, or I think a good way of defining addiction to people is throughout the day, this person is hijacking your emotions and your thoughts. So all of a sudden they pop into your head. All of a sudden they cause you to feel certain things. They cause you to feel anger, sorrow, worry, fear of losing them, guilt around maybe something you did to them. So every time this person or these people pop into your head and hijack your thoughts and emotions, that's a sign of addiction. And that's a sign that it's an unhealthy energetic relationship that we're having. It's so unhealthy, in fact, that it's also what's causing them to be harmed as well as you. Because I think a lot of times we have this relationship even with kids, right? We think sometimes addiction to people is these relationships that are toxic and unavailable. Truth is, this same relationship can be with children, right? Is your child constantly something that you're worrying about? Are they constantly popping into your head? Are you constantly trying to micromanage, control their lives? This is an unhealthy energetic relationship.
I see a lot of parents that use their children as an excuse. I can't do this because I have kids, or I don't need to. They release themselves of responsibilities because they can't. They have that. Yeah. It almost sounds like a weakness.
A lot of moms out there saying, "Easy for you to say, Elisheva, you only have 7 kids."
Okay. No, it's not easy for me to say. And it's something we can talk about maybe when we talk about the remedies. I can talk about how not to use your kids as an excuse.
The mom out there with 9 kids is saying, easy for you to say, Elisheva.
Right, exactly. That's the only person who's saying easy for you to say. So we'll talk about that. I know that a lot of people that I work with also use their significant other as that energetic crutch, or I don't know if the word is crutch, but it's like that I can't because of them, or I have to because of them.
Right. And we're not saying cut yourself off from people. We're not saying shut down or be cold, because I think intimacy is important. And I know intimacy is important. And having love and circuitry between two people is important. Parent and child, you and a lover, you and a friend, colleagues, bosses, whatever it is. However, are you needy? That's the question.
and we're going to answer it in today's show. So we want to hear from you also. Questions, comments, thoughts you have around those external forces that are making you feel or behave this way or that.
Yep.
I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about expectations, right? I think a lot of what subjugates us, what we're enslaved to, revolves around other people's expectations of us, which is another. I think that when we talk about this idolatry, this giving your energy or letting, like you said, letting someone or something hijack your thoughts, your energy, your attitude, your actions, there's imaginary ones and there's actual ones. And maybe we can also talk about the difference between the two.
Yep.
Something like fear, right? That's an imaginary one. It's when we don't do or say something because we're afraid of the outcome. We're afraid of something that doesn't exist yet.
Explain. Give an example of that.
Let's say, for example, there are people out there are afraid to express who they truly are. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean to box that in for anybody. You know, it can be that you're in a career that you don't want to be in and you're afraid to break out of the career you're in now because what are people going to think or say? You may be in a relationship that you've been in forever, and therefore, you know, if you leave it or if you say you're not happy, what are people going to think or say, including your significant other?
So
right?
why do you? Those are two great examples: career that you're not happy with, relationship that you feel is toxic. Maybe it's toxic. There's toxic you should leave, and there's toxic that you should address. Because a lot of times we want to be clear. If you're in a toxic relationship, it doesn't mean you need to leave it. It means you need to address it somehow. Sometimes addressing it means leaving it. But leaving it is usually the last thing that's on the spiritual list. Let's even just talk about those two situations, and let's break it down even further. Okay. I get this all the time. People are in a job situation they don't like, some kind of midlife crisis. People are having midlife crises at 29 years old these days, right? They're wanting to follow their passion. I get this all the time. People who want to follow their passion. I'm not fulfilling my passion.
You're getting Persian again. You have the accent.
Was that the Persian accent?
My passion.
All right. So people are so obsessed with following their passion, which I think is great. I feel like maybe we follow our passion, right? We do Kabbalah. I think that's our passion. But does that mean they just stop what they're doing and just take a leap? You just take a leap of faith, you know, and just go raise some money. So everybody wants to give you money.
Something tells me you're thinking about a few specific people there. I think that people confuse career and purpose. That's one of the bigger challenges I see in my work with individuals is people say, well, I haven't found my purpose yet. And they look for their purpose in their career.
Okay, that's good.
And I think that the two don't necessarily intersect. If they do, that's awesome. But that's not the default, and that's not required. For you to be fulfilling your purpose, you don't need to be working for a nonprofit or inventing the cure for anything or solving global warming, right? Our purpose is within, and where we work or what we do for our profession is where we fulfill our purpose. That's right. Where the universe presents us with opportunities to live our purpose. So even if you feel that, you know, you need to write a book, your book is not the purpose. The process, and I'm not now saying everybody should go out and write a book. Books are not very lucrative. Usually people who make money writing books actually make money speaking and not writing
from the book
their
itself,
not from the book itself, right? It's like pennies on the dollar kind of thing for books. But anyway, my point is, the writing of the book is not the purpose.
You make a good point, because every time we try to monetize our passions, we kill our passions.
Right.
Monetize your passion, you're going to destroy it.
So the what I've seen, and I know people, actually I know somebody who put out a book not recently, and to me as the bystander, the audience, it was very clear to me that it was the process of writing the book that brought out all of the internal work that she needed to do, brought it to the forefront, and the result was, yes, a book. She birthed a book, basically. But on the other side of the book, she was more elevated. She was kinder. She was gentler. She had gone through so many incidences, let's put it that way, that invited her to transform and elevate who she was before the book.
So I'll share practical advice about if you're in a situation where you're not 100% happy with your career, either because it doesn't bring you joy or it's not financially lucrative for you. One of the best things I've seen people do is don't quit what you're doing. I think people jump ship way too early. They get frustrated, they get flustered.
I'm going to pause you. If you know somebody in either of these two situations, tag them in the comments, share the show with them. Let us be messengers for your friends and family.
Let us deliver the bad news.
Right. Here, David's giving the remedy right now. Go for it.
So I always tell people don't quit what you're doing because it's reactive. It's part of our spiritual process where we feel lack, we feel void, and we don't want to feel that anymore. So we think that by quitting, we're solving that problem. The lack and the void has nothing to do with what you're doing. The lack and the void has a lot to do with how you're approaching what you're doing. First thing is, I always tell people, this thing that you don't enjoy doing, give it 100%. Go in, be a giver, stop being a taker. Stop looking to see what this can do for you. Stop trying to think what this business can do for you, what this relationship can do for you. Because we don't enjoy taking. Taking feels good in the moment, and then we feel shame and guilt later on. Those are actually the feelings that people feel once they receive something. We don't like receiving, even though we say we like receiving. We love creating, adding value. And according to deeper Kabbalah study, which we rarely talk about on this show because this is more of a show for the masses, but deeper Kabbalah study shares that we have two vessels. We have two spiritual vessels inside of us. We have the one vessel, it's a short-term vessel, that every time we bring energy into that vessel, we feel it and then the energy is gone. This is the vessel that most people use on a daily basis. We have another vessel, call it like the soul vessel. It's the vessel of the soul, where the way it becomes fulfilled is actually when it creates or you give. So you give, you create, you add value. Maybe initially you don't feel good because that's usually how it is when you're adding value to somebody else or something else. But ultimately the energy comes back and stays forever in that soul. So we call that the soul vessel or the circular vessel. That first vessel, we call that the linear vessel, like a line. It starts and then it ends. So the question is, which vessel are you using? And when it comes to your work or relationships, if you're trying to take from that scenario, you're utilizing your linear vessel, and that's why you're not feeling happy. Go all in. I usually say give it anywhere from 2 to 3 months, 1 to 3 months, depending on your situation. You're 100%
I usually
committed.
recommend longer.
Oh, really?
Well, in a relationship at least, because I think it maybe in work it's a little, you can turn the energy around a little bit more quickly. But in a relationship, I think giving 100%, going through 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, it's not enough.
That might be true. In relationship, maybe especially in a marriage, it might be longer. I usually think if I tell them too long of a time frame, they start shutting down. Because a lot of these times when people come to us, they're already decided that they want to leave. Right. And we're just trying to get them to not react to their desire to leave. So I say, give it 1 month. And then after 1 month, we might extend that deadline a little bit more. But 1 to 3 months, that's what I say. Give it 100%. That's number one. Number two, off hours. Do the things that you love. Cut out some of the nonsense that's wasting your time and spend 1 hour a day investing in your passion. 1 hour a day talking to investors. 1 hour a day taking meetings. See if the universe is giving you green lights, because that is the smart, mature way to approach any kind of transition in your life.
Well, one of the questions that we have coming up here on the feed is, how do you differentiate between desire and expectation?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Desire is very positive in Kabbalah. Well, we learned that on the spiritual path, your desire should be increasing.
Right. And expansive.
Expansive, that's right. It's good to want, because as soon as you want, you become alive, and you have now the opportunity to reveal more of the light of the Creator, which is our spiritual purpose. Our souls came to this world to manifest the energy of the Creator. And the only way you can do that is by wanting. Things like drugs, things like reactive, any kind of reactive behavior.
Anything that's short term.
Shrinks the desire.
Right. So it can be the appreciation, the approval, the acknowledgement, the high, the rush, whatever is fleeting, that's reactive.
That's right. So wanting is big. Wanting plus letting go is the most powerful formula and concoction, spiritual concoction that exists. Because with wanting comes the natural natural quality of expecting. That's a problem. Want always comes with expecting. You got to remove the expecting and you got to let go. So how do you have both? How do you want and let go? It's very hard because it's two forces that are colliding with each other. But in Kabbalah, we learned that those two forces, when you have both of them, you are a walking miracle. You create energy wherever you go.
It's, to me, that expectation is the recipe for misery. Being attached to, we had a great question come out of the comments in last week's show, you know, and I think it speaks to the same idea. How do I have certainty without being attached, right? I know this job is for me, that's not certainty. Mm-hmm. I know this job is for me is confidence, right? Mm-hmm. That's being attached to the job and not the process.
That's right.
When you're focused on the process, your desire is endless. And we spoke about this the last few weeks. You get so much more when you're not attached to that job or that individual or that package or whatever we're expecting in return for what we've
So
done.
let's give a practical example. Let's say you're dating and you go out on a first date and you enjoy it and it's very nice. So now you have a desire, not only for a relationship, but you also desire this person. You desire this person. And you go home and you're thinking about this person. So what do you do now? In Kabbalah, we say to have the desire, but to let go of the minutia, the details. So expand your desire for a relationship. Expand your desire to want to be in a relationship with circuitry and love in a gradual process of growth. But then let go of the expectation of getting it from, let's say, this person.
Right.
So you still can text this person and engage with the person and go on the next date. But let go of what you're trying to take from that person. Very important, because I say this about men, especially because we have these classes about men and women all the time. Men have an allergy to being needed. It's an allergic reaction. It's like the corona. It's like the virus. It's a virus. There's like a respiratory thing that happens to men when they feel a needy energy around them. And you could be externally saying the right things and doing the right things, but as soon as they feel like their freedom, not all men, but most men, depends on what the correction of the man is. But as soon as the man feels that he's being controlled or needed or boxed in any way, he has an allergy to that, and he's going to run away from it.
Well, I think you bring up something in the relationship domain that we can apply to, again, career, friendships, social experiences. I think one of the biggest idols that people bow down to is the word supposed.
Supposed?
It's supposed to be this way.
That's right.
I'm not supposed to have this. I am supposed to have this. I'm supposed to, I don't know, grow up to be a doctor. I'm supposed to be married by the time I'm 26. I'm supposed to be a parent. It's, to me, the word, it's consumption. That anything that you put the word supposed in front of, supposed to, it's consuming you, and you are literally offering sacrifices to that idol. Mm-hmm. Now, what we spoke about in the beginning of the show is that this week is going to show you the things that you're idolizing. The image of yourself. you may be worshiping an image of yourself that you're not, and doing everything you can to keep appearances up, right? Not to let your friends and family know that you are really, fill in the blank. Not to let your coworkers know that fill in the blank. Not to let your kids know that you're fill in the blank. Well, for every person, it's going to be something different. But that word supposed, I invite everybody to reflect on that this week. Listen to your internal dialogue and think about how many times you say the word supposed. That's not supposed to be this way. We're supposed to be happier right now. We were supposed to have made the big leagues by now. All of that supposed means you're living in one reality and your energy is coming from another one that isn't actually real. That's what I meant about the imaginary scenarios. Sometimes we're working towards an imaginary scenario and we're putting, even though we're present in another job, we're putting all our energy towards something that doesn't exist right now, which is why the job is empty, which is why the relationship is empty, which is why it's, we end up coming oftentimes people ask me, sometimes, right, we work all day and we have classes at night often. And sometimes I come home at the end of the night and I'm like buzzing. Like I can't calm down. I'm like, it's like I ran a marathon, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times people say, well, how do you work? Not every day, but in those days, how do you still have energy when you come home? The answer is that by being present and being where you're at and facing the opportunities in front of you for the light that you can reveal. Like David was saying, we're here to manifest the light force of the Creator. If that's your focus, it doesn't matter if you're a fry cook or a shoelace tipper or a politician or a school teacher or a lawyer or whatever you are, because your goal is to manifest, is to be the light force of the Creator, manifest.
One of our teachers once told us that if after a conversation or a lecture, because that was what they were referring to for us, you feel drained, it means you were trying to take from the audience or take from the other person. So even though you were the speaker, the one who was designated to be the giver, and you were saying words that were powerful or productive, you're drained because you were actually secretly trying to take and had expectation from the crowd. Maybe you desired a certain reaction.
I was going to say, maybe there's someone in the crowd you're trying to impress. If you're trying to
100%.
impress someone in the crowd, you become the effect and that person becomes the cause.
100%.
That person becomes the idol.
100%. This has happened so many times to us, and it's happened to me, and I'm sure to you. We'll be giving a seminar. It could be a big seminar, a certain place, and then you hear that so-and-so could be coming, or someone that you feel like I would want them to be inspired. All of a sudden, you have this new desire that maybe there's 200 people in the room. This one person, I really hope that they're inspired. And that's very poisonous, because if you walk into that lecture and you have an expectation, you want especially that person to be inspired.
Well, it's being attached to the outcome.
It's being attached to the outcome. And deep down, secretly, it's because you want approval from that person. Because obviously you want everyone to be inspired. We're giving a show. We want everyone to be inspired. But if we heard all of a sudden that one of the most important people in the world was listening to our show, it would change something within us. We would become somewhat needy of wanting to make sure that they specifically enjoyed it, because that could be a really big deal. And what you have to do as soon as you feel that is you have to let go. You have to say, it doesn't matter who this person, you have to completely let it go. Because if you walk on that show, you walk in that conversation, you walk in that boardroom or that meeting or any situation, and you're needy of that person to react a certain way, because maybe they determine how much money you're going to make, they determine how famous you're going to be, they determine how much comfort you're going to have, that is chaos. You really got to catch those moments of being needy of other people's time, energy, influence.
I'm pretty sure that happens to most people that work in group environments. You may need to create a presentation to present to investors or the executives in the company, or, even if it's again, I'm thinking of let's say it's a Starbucks and you hear that somebody high up is coming to do a tour of all the local stores, and you're nervous.
Right.
If you're nervous, this is a really easy way to know if you're the cause or if they are. When you're nervous, they're the cause. How happy you are, how content, how at peace you are is in their hands and not in yours in that moment.
Practical tool to break that is repetition. The more you do something, the more comfortable you become with it, the less fear you have and the less needy you are. And another way of not being needy for other people's energy is also rising to your own greatness. I think people are always looking for that special life hack of stop being needy. The truth is,
stop looking for life hacks.
Yeah,
That's rule number one.
You're needy because you're genuinely less. You haven't manifested the potential you need to, and that's why you feel empty. And then you, as a result of emptiness, you want to take energy from other people. When you rise to your greatness and you do what you're meant to do, the neediness goes away because you feel energized. And I'm not saying to do what other people are doing. You have to find what is your greatness. And so when I say that, people think, should I write a book, or do I need to start a show or a podcast?
To me, when you say that what do I envision? That person that works at Starbucks always giving their best, so that if they're surprised, there's a surprise visit by somebody, it doesn't need to faze them, because their everyday expression of themselves is at the top is high level. And so that's really not because, does it mean you may get a promotion? It does. Does it mean you may be called out for your exemplary, craftsmanship and behavior
Sure.
and customer? Absolutely. But that's the byproduct of you making the effort to manifest your light. I think it's that's a vital lesson. Also, even at home when no one's looking, right? The big brother is the big brother is everywhere. The cameras are always running from the upper worlds, and that perception. This is why I think for this week it's essential, because if we're only putting on airs when people are looking, right? If we're that awesome person only when it's visible, that of and within itself is an idol. You're behaving, quote unquote. You're being your best for that attachment, for whatever you're expecting, rather than genuinely. What I think one of the huge lessons of modern society is, if you don't want to get caught on film behaving badly, don't ever behave badly. You never know when you're going to get caught. And think about all these examples we've seen in the media of people, people that we admire, people who are supposed to be, leaders and examples, punching someone in the face, cursing at someone, stiffing someone's tip or whatever. That to me, that's actually the expression of a spiritual reality, which is you are never off duty. And if you realize you're never off duty, you'll always be reaping the benefits of that attitude, that mindset.
I've had a couple people come to me and tell me that maybe some of the small mistakes that they've made recently has garnered an overreaction. And the first thing people will usually say is, it's unfair, it's stupid, why can't people just settle down? They're so woke, and all this kind of stuff. I heard that yesterday, so woke.
Only people in your circle talk like that, David.
So it's kind of frustrating to people. And one of the ways to look at it is that the universe is kind of, turning on the pressure. Is that the right way? Mm-hmm. Turning on the pressure?
Turning up the pressure.
Turning up the pressure. Turning up the heat.
Mm-hmm.
Increasing the pressure. Increasing the pressure on each one of us to change. So there's going to be an imbalance of negative reactions to some of the small.
It's like we're all under the
seeds.
microscope.
That's right. We're all in the microscope. So you could do something that's benign, but the reaction of the universe will be very harsh and very acute. And it's not a bad thing. So the first thing I'll tell people is, stop fighting that. Don't say it's unfair. Don't get angry about it. Don't blame everyone. Of course, it's not a comparable reaction by the universe for this little thing you did, or this little comment you made, or this little action that really shouldn't have affected anybody. All of a sudden now everyone's making a big deal out of it. I'll tell them, if you take full responsibility, you go by yourself to a place and just meditate for an hour. Take full responsibility. The Creator just wants you to up your game. Wants you to just watch your words. Wants you to watch your actions. It's not a problem. We're going to make mistakes. People are going to react unfairly to it, especially now as we're growing. But the faster you take responsibility, don't become a victim about it, and just change who you are, then it's the Kabbalah say that your enemies become your supporters. Your enemies become the people who actually elevate you. So, and it happens, it switches. As soon as you switch something inside you, the people who are against you start to actually support you and love you.
I think that for a lot of us, the word fear is very... There's a lot to be afraid of out there, I think, in whether because the media makes us want to be afraid, encourages fear, and that, it's a lot easier to put people into action when they're afraid than when they're confident, secure, at peace. I want to talk about fear for a few minutes because I think it's unusual to find someone who isn't afraid of something. Yeah. Fear is a big one, again, because it's giving energy to a reality that doesn't exist. Whether the fear is on the, end of the spectrum of spiders, dog burglary, dog attacks, those kind of 1% fears, to the other end of the spectrum, which is more, I'm afraid my partner will leave me. I'm afraid of getting a terrible illness. I'm afraid of, there's bigger scale fears.
Right.
What is the problem with being afraid, with allowing the fear to drive us or to paralyze us?
I was in an Uber with someone the other day, and the first thing I did is it was just a 1 mile ride, and I put on my seatbelt. And the person looked at me and says, "Why, are you afraid?" And I said, look, my job is to put in the effort and to be prepared. So did I stock up on water? Sure. Do I have like an emergency kit, a bunker at home? Sure, why not? Be prepared. But the question is, who's controlling your thoughts? Are you in control, or are external influences controlling you? So you have to be the one that chooses to be prepared. You have to be one that's choosing to put on your seatbelt, not your fear is putting on a seatbelt. And I think that's that subtle difference, because I think sometimes people say certainty means, who cares? I was at the airport once and someone just left their wallet on the table.
What are you talking about? I know about a woman who crossed like a 6-lane highway in the name of certainty.
Yeah, that's just stupid, because what that does, and I remember the story once where someone left something at an airport once. It was one of our colleagues, and it was like an expensive sweater. And then he ran back to go get it. And then our teacher said to him, he said, look, what a miracle it was that my sweater was still there. I had certainty the whole time. And our teacher said, do you know how many positive angels or positive points that you had accumulated in your life you had to use to protect your sweater to not have it be stolen because you were careless? So the idea is that we need to make the effort to be careful, to be prepared, to be logical.
Can I give another really, I think, practical example? Yeah. A lot of people have a rainy day fund, right? It's one thing to stash money away because you're afraid you'll need it one day. And it's another thing to have a savings account so that you can do awesome things in the future.
Sure.
But same exact result, but the energy is so different.
Well, I would also add to that and say that every business, for example, should probably have 6 months. This is the standard 6 months of cash to weather any storms like what we're facing now in the economy, and that's not a bad thing. You just can't be afraid about it. It's okay to have 6 months of cash. Because you're also when you don't have that cash, you're forcing the Creator to do a miracle for you.
To spend your merits on it.
Yeah, you're forcing the Creator to get involved when you should have just been responsible. So I think a lot of times people do that. They act reckless and lazy, and then they depend on the miracle. So that's a problem. That's a problem. But if you're using that money in productive ways, if you're giving and sharing, you're doing the work, the spiritual work, and as a result you don't have that money, then it's okay to depend on the Creator. But you can't depend on the Creator if you've been lazy and just unprepared. That's
where the Kabbalah Center is involved in an event today, a meditation event in partnership with Deepak Chopra, Heart Math, Unplug Meditation. There's a lot of groups that are getting together today to do a global meditation for the sake of global healing.
Yes.
And if you want more information about it, you can find it on Facebook. We have it in our usual Healing Circle
Facebook?
Group. There's a group.
You find it somewhere on Facebook.
No. I'll tell you. We have a group called Awaken Meditation. You can find it there. I'm sure if you Google Deepak or Heart Math, if you're familiar with any of those, I know through Facebook that's how they're enabling hundreds of thousands of people to connect with it. But there should be more information online. That's at noon, LA time, Pacific time today. Even if you are not catching it live, you could go back and listen to it and be a part of it. But the idea there is, to create a influx of energy so as to tip the scales and shift what's going on in the world, not only with the virus, but with the hysteria and fear-based actions around the virus itself, whether it's how it's affecting the economy. By the way, there's a whole fresh new breed of racism that's happening out there because of the coronavirus. So we're part of the reason I'm piggybacking on what David was saying is you could look at it and say, well, it's going to do what it's going to do. Right. Here we're saying you should take more vitamin C and you should meditate and you should wash your hands all the time.
Yeah, people are like, I don't wash my hands. I have certainty.
Right. No, that's not the. I think it's a good example because it's an extreme example, right? Is this something that you should be afraid of? By the way, according to alternative medicine, if you're afraid, you're weakening your immune system.
Right.
So being afraid it's not going to serve now, and it's not going to serve in the long run.
That's right.
We want to see how we can shift things so that, am I being responsible? When I'm responsible, I'm the cause. When I'm doing it out of fear, what I'm afraid of is the cause, and it becomes that idol again.
Best hand sanitizer is to take a look at the people you're addicted to in your life and just stop it.
Well, last week you said humility is the
Well,
new
that
hand
was
sanitizer.
last week's hand sanitizer. That sold out on Amazon, and now
Everybody's humble, and now what you need to do is
now I would audit the people who are constantly hijacking our thoughts and our emotions, and I would say, okay, how can I choose to look at this relationship differently? How can I activate the power of my soul, the circular vessel, and stop trying to expect an apology, a thank you, a text, an acknowledgement. Stop expecting from this person.
Yeah, that's another good way
Desire,
to ask the question.
but don't expect.
What are you waiting for?
That's
If
it.
you're waiting for something to happen, waiting for someone to say something, waiting for someone to do something to you, for you, etc., that person is your boss right now.
Right.
How upsetting is that? Right? To me, that was when I had my major shift around this concept of taking your power back. It bothered me so much to think that person, and it's usually the people that we don't like, that have that type of control over us, right? The person at work who's trying to get our job, and the person, the neighbor who's calling the police and telling them that we're partying, or we often burn sage and stuff like that.
In
and
the
there's,
house? There's like
and there's
smoke and
neighbors
fire?
that are like, they're doing something illegal over there. It's not very illegal anymore, but we used to have somebody that would call the authorities on us, and all we were doing was saging our house. But the point is the mere, the idea of allowing someone I don't like to monopolize my brain space, my emotional state, to dominate that someone else could make me do things. Make me. That's the other key phrase. If anyone is making you feel a certain way, do certain things, behave a certain way, they are in charge of you. And who are they? Take the keys back. Start to drive your own car. It's not... How dare they? How dare anyone or anything have that kind of control over you?
Spiritually, you can actually just start to ask the universe. It's a form of prayer. We learn that prayer, we don't pray to fulfill our needs. That's actually that's shame. We call that bread of shame. That actually sets us backwards. We pray for the opportunity to transform ourselves. So one of the things that we can request from the universe in any language, shape, or form you would like, in any meditative way you would like, is to ask the universe to show you what it means to be the source of energy and to stop taking energy from other people. And as soon as you put that energy out there, and as soon as you put that desire out there, the entire universe takes shape to be able to help you with that and give you internal strength. And don't let your logic try to dictate how that's going to happen. Don't try to plan how that's going to happen. It's important to even let go of expectations of how that will happen. Just start saying, I want that. I want to be the source of energy. I do not want to be needy of anyone's time, energy, acknowledgement, respect. The creator controls this world, not the people you think are the ones who are holding your reputation in their hands. And as we wrap up, always want to give a plug for some of our new students who want to learn more about Kabbalah. What,
I'm giving you the finger because
No,
the orange nail polish
the orange
finger.
Nail.
It's like a red light almost. Stop for 1 second. I think
The pointer finger, by the way, she gave me,
yes,
not the other
other finger. What's important about what David is saying is I'm tuning into the thoughts of people who are new and listening, and they're saying, well, how am I going to stop that?
How am I going to stop what?
Being afraid,
Okay.
being worried about what they think, that, look at what the media is doing to us. How am I not supposed to operate out of panic or, obsession over my future?
Sure.
In class 1 on Kabbalah1.com, you get the formula. That's really the truth.
You get the first step of the formula.
You get the first step of the formula to interrupt that. By the way, if you're 36 or 46 or 56 or 66, you've been thinking that way for 66 years. We acknowledge it is a difficult thing to break belief systems and thought patterns and emotional habits and even physical, behaviors. Kabbalah One will give you that formula. What David was going to say is if you are new to the show and you haven't heard us talk about it, our listeners have a special code, WEB30, to get 30% off at Kabbalah1, KABBALAHONE.com. And the reason that we do that is because we know that a lot of the stuff we talk about here sometimes is a bit cryptic.
Yeah.
It is a little bit.
We don't go too deep. We don't go too deep here. And that's on purpose because we want to appeal to the masses. We want to serve this information and content to you without having to digest it too much. And yes, we talk about Kabbalah 1 every week because our audience is growing every week and people are constantly messaging you guys saying, how can we get more content? So sorry if we're always talking about Kabbalah 1.
No, to me, I want people to know we don't expect you to blink and you're doing it.
Yeah, right.
There is a practice. There is a way to get into a more elevated and empowering habit in your thoughts, in your emotions, in your actions. So we're not saying, blink twice and it'll be done. Do this work. We've done it. We do it constantly. I think that's one of the great things about having to teach the courses is you can't talk about it and not do it. It really does help keep us responsible about the things that we're teaching. But even more than that, I've had conversations with people over the last few weeks who have either started taking the course or who've recently finished it that they didn't think that they were capable of seeing that much transformation within just the period of taking the class. So I feel comfortable bragging about it because I'm not the teacher of the course. I think David does a great job of simplifying it, making it simple, hitting the point, and then sending you off into the world to do it. So do it. Sign up for it if you haven't already. By the way, I don't think we can close out the show if we don't talk about guilt.
We have more to talk about on the show. We give them so much.
Well, there's a person who's saying, well, I'm not controlled by anything. I don't have any idols I worship.
Oh, people are saying that?
No. I'm saying I'm reading into the listeners' minds.
Okay.
Guilt is a big thing.
Uh-huh.
I think. I mean, again, I can talk. Oh, I promised I'd talk about the parenting, how not to make your kids your excuse. Okay. But I know working with a lot of women who are mothers and who are maybe you don't necessarily, I guess, have to be married. But if you have kids and you're trying to work, create value, have something outside of yourself other than your children, there is a lot of guilt around that. Of course, the word supposed comes into the conversation infinity times and that, from that position. But part of what we need to remember as parents, as role models, and I'm not sure we realize that we are our children's role models.
Right.
We are their best examples on who to be and how to be, is that if you are allowing your position as the stay-at-home mom or the stay-at-home dad, or you may even be a working parent, if you allow your responsibilities or obligations to be the reason you don't have a hobby, have a social life, live a healthy lifestyle, those things that are your greatest joys, your family, your marriage, your career, become your idols.
That's right.
They are in control of you. They are limiting you. And what you are doing by allowing those things to limit you, you are draining the blessing and the joy and the long-term fulfillment from them. So when you look at your kids and you say, oh, I can't go out with my girlfriends next week because I can't leave my kids alone.
Right.
What are you telling your children? Sacrifice your happiness for the energy. People. It's almost like you make the weight of them heavier on you.
We have a lot of experience dealing with this with parents and also talking to children and getting their feedback, because I think that's an important part of what we do one-on-one with people. And the two most important factors to a child growing up with healthy emotional stability, number one is that there's peace in the home, that they want to see the parents love each other. Even if they're divorced, they want to see respect. They want to see unity. It's healthy for your child to know that you as parents love each other even more than you love the children. I think sometimes parents freak out about that. Children want to see that. That's number one. And number two, they want to see their parents happy, and real happiness, because they can tell if you're happy because you're doing drugs. And I know parents.
We didn't even talk about drugs.
I know a lot of parents. I know a lot of parents, when the kids go to bed, the parents will sit there and they'll get high or do the drug or whatever, because it's their way of trying to connect to some happiness. And that's okay. It's not long lasting. You wouldn't want your own kids to do that. You would never teach your kids, look, it's important to work hard all day and then get high at night. That's the only way to sustain yourself in life. You would never teach that to your children. Right. So that's the energy that they feel when the kids wake up in the morning. Just because they're in bed doesn't mean they're not feeling the energy. So I would always say that those two things, their happiness, which is peace in the home, which is unity between the parents, and then happiness, which is what you're saying, is start to live your happiness, even if it means that you have to spend less time with the kids, because there is that balance where the kids will feel that, and it's important for them.
That doesn't mean you don't argue, by the way.
Oh, arguing is great. Arguing is great.
I want to make sure it's clear. It's not like you can hear a pin drop in either of our homes.
Right.
But the idea is that to me, again, this was a game changer as a parent, was whatever I'm doing, I'm modeling behavior for my kids.
Right.
So if I'm happy in my relationship and I'm doing what I need to be doing and also inviting my partner to be doing that, I'm showing them a healthy relationship.
Correct.
Right? I don't want my children to think, well, the woman is supposed to be subservient and the man is not supposed, sort of like those 50s advice for the housewife kind of things. But at the same time, my let's say, for example, arguing. Mm-hmm. You have an argument in front of your kids. What the other thing to show them is how you recoup.
Yeah.
How you finish the argument with, love and humor and a hug, and to show them that it's okay to disagree.
Yes. Respectfully
disagree and love even harder after that.
Yep.
And what a beautiful thing that is, because, especially if you have more than one kid, they'll probably argue.
Right.
And it's important for them to realize they can argue and then run off to play again afterwards.
Right. Share how you feel, share your emotions, do it non-reactively.
Listen, my kid, this is actually like confessions of a Kabbalah teacher now. My son asked me not long ago, why do I always look at my phone?
That's a good one.
And I actually...
How old?
He's 9. Uh-huh. He's now 9. So, my first reaction was, I don't do that. I mean, I didn't say that to him. And, I
try to justify it somehow.
Internally, right? I was like, what? I'm like the mom that puts the phone down and, maybe I'll look at it as I pass by, but I don't sit on the couch with the kids, or I'm not in the middle of a game, looking at my phone. And, I took it in, I reflected on it, and I said, what do you mean? And he gave me some examples. He said, sometimes you look at your phone and you laugh like someone told you a joke. And I said, chances are if I'm laughing, someone did send me a joke. And that's sometimes how adults connect, because we're not in school all day together. And then afterwards I went back to him and I said, I'm so grateful that you said that to me, because everybody has blind spots. And I used it, first of all, to appreciate his openness and his ability to be able to call me on my stuff in a respectful way, by the way.
Yeah.
He wasn't like, you bleep, you never pay attention to me, what's wrong with you? He said, how come you always... So I used that moment to acknowledge how important and how much I want his feedback.
So you gave him a safe space to be able to share, because there's going to be times in the future he needs to share, and if he suppresses it, it's going to be very toxic.
And to say, I'm, as the mom, I have plenty of opportunities to say, you're not supposed to do that. Suppose there's that word again. Pick up your toys or whatever criticism I may have, to let him know that in a healthy relationship, it goes both ways. That if the love is there and the love is there, it actually helps to grow the love. I actually looked at him with these eyes of like, wow, thank you so much. How else am I going to notice those things if someone isn't calling me out on them?
100%. I love that. One of the things I've learned with my oldest, he's 3, but if I tell him, all right, time to go to bed, or time to, he says no immediately, because he's Taurus and he doesn't like any kind of instability.
And because he's 3.
And he's 3. But I'll say something like, so would you prefer to stay down here on the cold? You want to sleep here on the cold floor? It's very cold. He'll be like, no, I want to go upstairs. I want to go. So it's like a conversation. It's respectful. And I'm enjoying it, because I realize I don't want to be the dad that just like controls the house and just says it has to be a certain way, because I think that breeds a toxic environment. So he's forcing me. He's basically saying, if you control me, I'm not going to listen to you, and he's basically telling me you can't control anyone in this world. That's the message I get from my son. I love that.
Well, let's segue that into a final thought, because we have like 10 seconds left. If you think about your options like that, right? I have a choice right now. I can be controlled by what's happening at work, or I can let it go. That controlled by work is like sleeping on the cold floor. You have a choice. Mm-hmm. You always have a choice. And if there's one thing that you take into the coming week from everything that we've talked about so far, it's to realize that you don't have to let those thoughts, you don't have to let that person or those situations hijack your thoughts, emotions, and actions. Even if you've been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years, you can take that power back. This is the week to both see how you're giving it away and reel it back in. Anything else?
Oh, it's good.
Okay. So again, we're on Facebook, IGTV, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, CastBox, and Stitcher. You can also find us on YouTube at the Kabbalah Center channel. If you're catching us not in the live moment, please continue to post your comments and questions. If you're not comfortable doing them publicly, you can always reach us at energyboost@kabbalah.com. That's our email address. Have a fabulous week. We'll see you next week on the Weekly Energy Boost.